You are listening to the QSR Web Podcast.
Hello again, all, and welcome back to the QSR Web Podcast. I'm your host and QSR Web editor, Shelley Whitehead, and happy you pulled up a chair for today's show because we're going to talk to the man behind a very quickly launched and successful delivery-only brand in the New York City metro area that owes its birth to a bunch of interesting delivery data along with New Yorkers' undying devotion to the chicken wing. That's just ahead after this brief message. Stick around.
Are you a supplier or a brand working to elevate the customer experience? The Interactive Customer Experience Association connects brands, suppliers, agencies, and more who are working to create transcendent customer experiences. Let's work together to create a better customer experience ecosystem for us all. Join the ICX Association today at icxa.org.
Uber Eats customers around New York City apparently had a problem a while back. Not enough sources for that essential party food, chicken wings, for them to order from. It was, you might say, one of those golden opportunities just waiting to be taken advantage of, which is why the founder of an area fast casual brand, Mighty Quinn's, that just happened to have some great wings too, acted so fast. And that's where we begin today with that man, Hugh Mangum, who might win the food service industry prize for quick action in his development of this delivery-only wing brand, Sugar Wing. Welcome, Hugh.
Yeah, good afternoon. How you guys doing?
We're good here today. So let's just begin at the beginning, as they say. First of all, and especially since this brand is pretty much in its infancy, can you please explain the concept for our listeners and how it works and where and when you began?
So quite honestly, in your opening, it was pretty much spot on. My partners, Christos Gormos and Misha Majid, and I were contacted, or basically, we were in cahoots with finding out about what needed to be filled through Uber Eats, and the opportunity presented itself to run essentially what we would quote unquote call a pop-up within our location, doing our wings, but expanding our wing menu and delivering it only through Uber Eats, so that it's not a restaurant that you can walk into and order those wings that are available at Sugar Wing, which is the name of our in-store pop-up. It's a delivery-only availability menu, and it just seemed like a natural fit. We already had wings on the menu. We had two versions of our wings, which are chili lime spicy wings and our barbecue wings. And, I have a bunch of sauces that are kind of in my wheelhouse, that are in my back pocket. And when this opportunity presented itself, it just made a whole lot of sense to take those sauces, apply them to the wings, and run this out in the delivery platform through the restaurant to also beta test the wing concept.
But you moved fast, didn't you?
Yes. It basically, I wouldn't call it, overnight, but pretty close to overnight. The opportunity presented itself. We found out that the niche and the need needed to be filled. I'd say within about 2 weeks from the time that we knew that, this was something that was available to us to roll out is when we did it. I mean, obviously, in certain ways. Yeah, but truth be told, it's not like opening a restaurant. So, being candid with you, Chris, Misha, and I had discussed it, and what made a lot of sense was that, you're only training staff that you already have on site. There's no, you're not having to train them on how to speak to customers in this as far as in person. It's mainly training of assembly and the actual, finishing of the product, cooking the product, and packaging it. So essentially what we had to do was create almost like a mini line within our line with, separate packaging and separate items. But again, execution, I wouldn't say it was easy, but compared to opening a restaurant, full stop, where you're having to train staff top to bottom, deal with, customer service, cleaning bathrooms, front of house, sweeping the floor. This is in the walls of a restaurant that already existed. So those intangibles were already there.
Awesome. Now, as I understand it, or maybe I'm taking this a step too far. This is kind of a joint thing with Uber, based on the information they provided about more or less unanswered searches on their platform. Is that correct? And if so, what's Uber's involvement, if any, in the current venture, Sugarwing?
So Uber's involvement is basically just the exclusivity. So Sugarwing only exists on the Uber Eats platform. I would not go as far to say that we will never ever introduce these wings to our restaurant, but in its current incarnation as Sugarwing the pop-up is I wouldn't call it a joint venture. It's just an exclusive venture with Uber Eats.
That's cool. That's cool for Uber Eats too.
I think that, it's in all due fairness on both ends. It's a benefit to them to have us on board for this, but it was a benefit of ours to get the information from them. So, that's where the exclusivity comes in.
Then we're going to come right back here to pick up with how Sugarwing is flying these days and where the tailwinds are taking you in the future right after this.
The Interactive Customer Experience Association's mission is to connect B2C brands to technology that elevates the customer experience. Brands have access to resources, project help, news, and insights based around boosting their customer experience. Suppliers gain network opportunities to reach these brands and help them provide solutions to elevate their customer experience. Join today at icxa.org.
Okay, we are back with delivery-only concept, Sugarwing. So now, you all are up and running with this concept in New York City and thereabouts, right?
Yes, it's in New York and in New Jersey.
Okay. So tell me, what's the response and how is that directing your path forward with this concept?
Oh, the response has been great. It's one of those things where I'm a restaurant guy, I'm a chef. So, I'm used to table touches and seeing the customer's face. This new frontier we're on, where delivery is making up so much of the business, is very, very strange for me. So, I don't have a tactile sense of looking at the customer's face and saying, how'd you like that? Or seeing them, seeing their eyes roll back when they taste something and their mind is blown. This is more a matter of seeing it get some traction, and it's doing well. It's one of those things where I look at it again as a chef, not as I'm not the money guy in this partnership. Obviously we all would like to be successful, but for me, ultimately, what I look at is, we're selling wings that are different and new and other flavors, and how that's skewing, and the fact that, when the time comes, we can, roll out a couple of these wings at some point in the restaurant, and knowing, what works and what doesn't work. It's a great beta test for us from a product standpoint, but it's also just, it's doing really well in terms of giving us another revenue stream, but also, showing that we've got more to our game than just smoked meat.
That's interesting that what you were saying about being a chef and needing that kind of table touches and seeing the customer's faces. Are you adjusting to this system? Do you get feedback that you can use? How do you get feedback now?
Oh, I think, you get feedback via, whether it's Google, whether it's Yelp. Those people are still reviewing the restaurant. The truth being told, I tend to not read them religiously anymore. When we first opened our doors 6 years ago, I could tell you the moment another Yelp hit. I was constantly looking for the feedback. But now, and I don't mean this in a that we're gargantuan, but with our growth, it's just I can't keep track of every single one. So what we tend to do is, we tend to really, really hone in on, and I hate to say negatives, but if you see a reoccurring theme, let's say, so whether it's a recurring theme is people are saying that the sauce was great, and you see 3 of those reviews within a 24-hour period, well, then, you can give everybody a pat on the back and they're doing their job great, or the delivery times were great. But then if you, on the flip side, if you see cold food 3 or 4 times in a period of 24, 48 hours, then you've got a pattern. It's not just somebody who's upset with you, or trying to kind of badmouth you. It's like there's a theme there that needs to be paid attention to. So I think that that's where we get most of our feedback in terms of real time. But people also email us, and people will do shout outs on Instagram, and ultimately my most important piece again is the food, and throughout whenever I taste the food in the restaurant, it's spot on, and it's phenomenal, and it's flavorful, and it's chef driven. Obviously I say that self-congratulatory wise, but I mean, it's chef driven in the sense that, what we're doing is not your run of the mill wings. There's not, it's not just one size fits all. It's not like, 2 different flavors that are kind of easy. It's, there's different variations to it. In terms of the delivery piece, in terms of adjusting to that, I think that, that's a Pandora's box. So I think that we're in a day and age where we have these supercomputers in our hands, and people want to order food and they don't want to leave their apartment, sometimes when they're even in the same building. And, you have a choice to either play the game or to not do it and potentially lose revenue. I think the fine line there is knowing that, when these third-party apps, their delivery people take your food, there is the risk run of quality suffering, because nothing will ever be identical to eating it in the restaurant. Hot out of the fryer, tossed in the sauce, garnished with nice crispy veg, and it hits the table, and you can control its perfection, its intention. And, once you've got someone who shows up to pick up an order, invariably that there will be some suffering there. The goal is to time it as appropriately as possible and try to have it so dialed in like a machine that essentially when that person walks through the door to grab the order, it's literally like the lid is hitting the box after it's just been put into the container, and getting there within 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully, to its destination, and that then you don't have as much detriment as you could if it was not cared for. But again, sometimes you can't guarantee that, or at least it's out of your hands in certain respects once it leaves your building. So that part, as a control freak, that has me, that definitely something that I can't say that I've fully adjusted to yet.
I can hear people in the audience just saying, yeah, we hear, yeah, because it's scary.
Well, it's funny because Christos, Misha, and I were at an event a couple of days ago, and it was actually it was this panel on delivery, and the state of delivery and where it's going and all of these things, and largely there was information that we already kind of knew, but there was one bit of information that I thought was pretty funny. Like, it was an anecdotal. Someone was telling an anecdote, and it was that you never hear anybody. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't remember it either. Anybody ever saying, "I had the most amazing delivery last night." It's always like, normally whenever anyone is talking about something they got delivered, if they're mentioning it, it's normally a negative. It's never like, it was perfect. It's normally always like, oh my God, I had to wait 20 minutes. They were an hour late, or, the food looked like, junk, or because it was tossed around in a bag. And, so I think that that kind of resonated with me, that, our ultimate goal at some point in hopefully the near future is to hopefully take more control over ensuring that the food is as optimal as it could possibly be when it gets to the customer's door.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before. Thanks for sharing that. It does open your eyes a little bit. I'm wondering also, and I kind of know the answer to this, are there synergies between this concept and your original Mighty Quinn's barbecue concept, that I mean, Mighty Quinn's kind of gave birth to Sugar Wing. Do they kind of sell each other?
I don't know that they sell each other per se. I think that there is a synergy though, because I mean, it's like saying the best way I could put that is, take your favorite. What would be your favorite musician or band? You have 10 seconds to tell me who it is. Who would be your favorite band?
Oh, you're not going to put me on the spot like that.
I am. I'm putting you on the spot. Who's your favorite musical artist?
Big Audio Dynamite.
Okay, so there you go.
Everybody's going, who is that?
No, I was a Clash fan. So to that point, the Clash, Big Audio Dynamite. You take any band that has a founding member who's the same with Mick Jones, and invariably there will be similarities to the sound. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So the synergy between Sugar Wing and Mighty Quinn's is that ultimately the person who created the food and the people that created the business are the same people. So I think that it's hard to say that they would be 100% a 180. I would say that maybe we've, instead of taking a 180 or a right turn or a left turn, we've simply just veered down another lane. But with the same ethos that we have at Mighty Quinn's in terms of quality, in terms of, our vibe, in terms of, making sure that we're delivering on the promise of, our all natural, top of the line, best food in the business for what we do promise, then the two businesses are inextricably linked. They're just, one is basically, I would say, the cousin of the other, as opposed to being a completely different business.
Awesome. I am curious about something because I don't live in New York City. What is it like to deliver there? I mean, you're not delivering, I take it, but you probably have a pretty good feel for it now.
I think it really is. It's dependent upon the day. I mean, today it's 70 degrees and sunny, which obviously not as many people are ordering delivery when it's 70 and sunny. But it's ideal. And, someone gets delivery today, it's probably going to be delivered in a timely fashion. It's going to be at proper temperature and all of those intangibles, all of those tangibles. But let's rewind to 4 weeks ago, and it was raining and 30 degrees, and no one wanted to leave their apartments, and the delivery doubled on that day. That's where you hit your stress points in delivery. Inclement weather is, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest factor in the amount of orders you get, but also where things can fall through the cracks in terms of the delivery times, in terms of temperature. Those are what you really have to, be cognizant of as much as you can. But again, it's kind of a hard thing to control when the food leaves your door. Delivery times tend to rise because they're doing multiple deliveries. They're running like crazy. They're in the snow. Ultimately, New York in a lot of ways can be easier in certain respects when the weather's great, because if the radius is 10 blocks, you can get 10 blocks in New York in 4 minutes on foot if you're hustling, or 5 minutes.
Well, you can.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, maybe the delivery guy can't, or maybe some people can't. But versus, so I've spent a lot of time. I grew up in Los Angeles, and if you deliver or order delivery in Los Angeles from any number of restaurants, you could be looking at an hour and a half wait time on delivery because it's so much more spread out, and there's traffic in a different kind of traffic than New York. I mean, New York has serious traffic, but most of these delivery guys aren't in cars, unless it's like a catering order. They're mostly on bikes or on foot, and it's much quicker.
So this is just one last fun question, and it's, what is your favorite type of wing?
My favorite type of wing. I'm going to give you two of them that are my favorite. My all-time favorite is actually the OG Mighty Quinn's chili lime sauce wing, just because that was my favorite thing to eat on the menu. And it's something that I think separates us from every other barbecue place, bar none, in that it's not your typical buffalo wing. It has a little bit of like, some fermented chilies. It's got an Asian hint to it. It's got a lot of citrus. We serve it with pickled chili. I'm sorry, with pickled celery. So it's kind of a nice, nice poking the bear of buffalo wings with the raw celery sticks. So to me, that was always my favorite wing, because I also like the euphoria of spicy and the fact that you eat one, then you want another one. It's on your lips and it's spicy and you want a beer. But then I'd say, my unsung hero is our Alabama wings, which are the Alabama white sauce wings, which are a throw to a colleague named Chris Lilly, who's a chef out of Big Bob Gibson's in Alabama, and he's famous for, or they're famous for, their Alabama white sauce with their smoked chicken. And that to me is just one of those super interesting flavor profiles. It's like mayo and vinegar based with some sugar and some herbs. It kind of hits all the notes of what you think of when you think of almost like a ranch dressing, kind of that guilty pleasure that we all won't admit necessarily, but like that we do kind of like ranch. But take that and amp it up, 10 times and activate that with heat from the wings coming out of the fryer. It's just a really, really awesome flavor profile. And I'd say the other one for me, if I'm going to give you a third, would be our Korean sweet soy gochujang sauce, which is just, again, another thing that you don't see every day in a barbecue place and or in restaurants that aren't, per se in the lane of being just Korean. Those do really, really well. They have a nice kind of flavor dance in your mouth with the sweet soy. There's some heat, some sugar. It's very subtle on the heat piece, but it's got a lot of umami, and it just plays really, really well with the wings.
Wow. I asked for one, I got 3.
There you go. Because I like the choice. I like choice.
Wonderful and wonderfully insightful. It'll be fun to watch the Sugar Wing Fly as we move forward, and I wish you great success to you. Thanks so much for coming in today. Sorry?
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, it's been very thought-provoking for this particularly increasingly delivery-centric industry, and that kind of wraps it up for us today. It's going to be the end of this particular session of the QSR Web Podcast.
And actually, we're skipping a week for the long Memorial Day weekend, since none of you will be here anyway. We'll be back, though, on May 31st with another show and great quick service brand. Until then, have a great day, great business week, and a spectacular holiday weekend. Viva la time off!